Okay, most people aren't going to be able to make it live, but I think this is going to be really fun training. This is one of the things that I'm doing in my personal life. Like specifically right now, this is kind of the phase I'm in. I've just become really, it's something that I'm sort of reminded of more than anything. It's something that I'm becoming continually convinced of. But one of the like maxims that we could sort of live by is that as the health community, coaches, physicians, whatever it is, your primary care doctor, one of the things that we could impress on our clients and patients is that you get your biggest benefit from fitness and physiology by lifting really heavy things. And by lifting really heavy things, we underestimate, we think that we're lifting heavy to benefit our body. And usually most people are not quite lifting in the range where they're going to get their most benefit. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
A lot of people, it's become well understood that strength training is really powerful for the body and it's powerful for health. What's not as well understood is how to actually practically do strength training. So there's a lot of studies that show diabetics, type 2 diabetics doing strength training, and they absolutely kill it on their A1C numbers. But if you actually look at these studies, they're having them lift between 75 to 85% of their maximum strength that they can lift. So a lot of those studies, they actually have to work with them pretty rigorously to make sure they're lifting heavy enough. Whereas when a doctor tells their patient, hey, I want you to lift weights, you go home, you're lifting a 5-10 pound dumbbell, and it's not, that's not the benefit that you're looking for. I didn't start recording, did I?
It is recording.
Yeah, okay, all right. Wanted to make sure. So the point is, when we've seen in the research that strength training is super important, and nobody would, there's hardly any doctors that would say, no, it's not important to strength train. But there's a disconnect between that instruction and what people actually do when they go home. So here's one other thing that I want to say is don't worry. Like the title of this is you're not lifting heavy enough. It's like, oh my gosh, have I wasted time? No, don't worry about it if you're not lifting heavy just yet. Because here's the thing, this you're not lifting heavy enough is maybe true, but that's not really good advice unless you have it in context. For example, if I tell you that you really get a benefit when you lift really heavy and you need to start lifting really heavy, but your nutrition is all over the place, or you're not consistently eating enough protein, or you're really stressed at work and so you don't recover well, and you're not eating any vegetables, you're going to have a hard time actually consistently lifting heavier. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say there, Cindy Lou?
Yes, it does.
So it's all about like, while that may be true, that's not necessarily helpful until we get you in context and get sort of all of your lifestyle sort of together. So my point is to my clients is, hey, I want to encourage all my clients to learn to lift heavier, but I'm sort of working to progress everybody at kind of an individual pace. And so I'm now hoping to push the community to begin to lift heavier. And it's a process that we'll go through together. So for example, if you're a beginner, if you have not been lifting weights, if you've maybe never lifted weights in your life, or you've not been exercising for the last 6 months or 6 years or 6 decades, you need to take it slow anyways. And so you building up to being able to lift really heavy is a long-term process. I've had clients that it's taken us more than a year to get to a point where they're actually consistently lifting heavy. But the cool thing about that, this is actually encouraging, is that so say you're new and you've been starting to lift weights and you've been starting to exercise, and you say, man, and as I look at my last 4, 5, 6 months, I haven't made quite the progress that I want to make. Well, first of all, good progress is slow progress. And a lot of times we want to get things fast that just need to come slow. Second of all, you still have a lot that you can grow on. You're still leaving a big behavior on the table. What I'm trying to say is, if you've been working for 5 months, you may not have gotten really good at strength training yet, which means that if you get good at strength training and if you get good at lifting heavy things, you have a lot of freedom that you can win for yourself. Is that clear? Is that like kind of encouraging? Hopefully it is.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
No, makes sense. Good.
Yeah. I mean, the encouragement is that like, we want to say, hey, I started exercise when I decided I was going to get healthy, so I should be where I want to be. No, the truth is doing exercise well takes a long time to learn. And that's okay. And like I've been being consistent with it for a couple years now, and I feel like I've just hit another level where I'm getting better. I can see in my body, I'm working out. I'm not spending any more time working out. I'm getting a lot stronger. I'm moving heavier weights. I'm moving better. So this is a long term, I don't have a single client who's made it. They've made it to the point where they don't have any progressions to do. I haven't made it to the point where I'm progressing. I have one friend who just broke the Tennessee record for bench press by like 58 pounds. And I asked him the other day, I was like, are you able to progress? Like, can you even get any better? And he was like, yeah, I can get a little bit better. So there are some people that can't really get much better, but at least all of my clients, we got a lot, you got a lot of improvement that you can do. That should be good news. That means that like you can continue to refine. And you haven't, if you're like, I still have a lot of results that I can get, I'm here to encourage you that there's a big behavior that you can improve on that will help you get those results. So I hope that's encouraging.
Well, even if you get to the point where, like your friend, not that I would ever get to that point, but it would be good to maintain. To maintain would be hard too.
Exactly. And so actually his personal goal is to build as much muscle mass while he's young that he can just, like the way he thinks about it is, yes, you can build muscle when you're older. Every one of my clients has proven that. But it's a lot harder. And so he wants to get to a point where he could pretty much lose muscle mass for most of his life, but still actually, die with a healthy amount of lean mass. So
Wow, that's a big goal.
it is, it's definitely my goal as well, is like, hey, I want to get muscle now so that when I have kids, I can just worry about maintaining and I don't have to worry about building muscle then.
There you go.
So, yeah. All right, so let's get into this real quick. Let's get into some of the specifics. My point is, I said this earlier, but there's a disconnect. We all know we're all encouraged to build more muscle. There's not a single doctor out there who would say, no, I don't think my client should have more muscle on their frame. But most practitioners and individuals don't really apply this knowledge effectively. And so my goal is not, so anyway, my goal is to help you apply it effectively. Now, here's the thing. My goal is not to turn you into a bodybuilder where you got a huge thick neck and you got massive biceps. You have a hard time touching your back because you have so much muscle mass. I don't care about turning you into a bodybuilder, but you may need to feel like a bodybuilder for a short period of time to actually get where we want you to go. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I had a client the other day and she was like, like you're really pushing me to lift heavy. She's like, what's the point of me lifting that heavy? She happens to be a very strong person. Like she's super strong. And so I'm asking her to like lift like 200 pounds because she can. She was like, why are you pushing me to lift that heavy? And I was like, hey, because that's the kind of weight your body can move. And so like, my point isn't for you to become a bodybuilder. That's the point where you're going to get your maximum health benefit. So I'm not trying to turn her into a bodybuilder, but she feels like she's prepping for a show. She feels like she's pushing really hard. And the reality is in a couple of weeks, it's going to feel normal to her. But right now she's going through a growth phase. Growth is hard and it feels uncomfortable a lot of times, but it's good for you. So let's make the connection here. I want you to understand a little bit of theory and physiology that's going to really help you understand this practically. And have you ever seen this graph before?
I don't recognize it. Go ahead.
You might have seen it sometime in med school. So one word I want you to understand, hypertrophy is increasing in muscle size.
Right.
This blue line here is literally increasing the size of your muscle. Hypertrophy is the goal for bodybuilders. They want really big muscles, but anybody want to guess why hypertrophy is really good for non-bodybuilders, specifically in terms of metabolic disease?
I don't know why.
So
more muscle increases your metabolism.
Yes, it does. Yeah, there's that's that wasn't even the one I was thinking. But yeah, more muscle increases your metabolism. More muscle increases the threshold of what you can lose as you age, like I just said. The other big one is more muscle means lower blood glucose because muscle is a sink for glucose. So I've had a pre-diabetic client who actually had them triple their carbs, but they decreased their blood sugar and insulin because she built a lot of muscle. She was really young. So I was like, hey, let's just, you don't need to go low carb. You just need to build muscle. And over the course of 6 months, she tanked her blood glucose and tanked her insulin just by building more muscle. So the more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism is, the better you metabolize glucose, and the better your results are going to be on a lab. So Cindy Lou, that's something we've talked about, right? You've heard me say that?
Yes, yes. And my sugars have been going down more
Wow.
now that I'm doing the Bowflex and the exercises you have me doing.
Awesome. Which is exactly what we expect for two reasons. One, when you start lifting, you build muscle and then the blood glucose can go away. The other reason is that after you lift for like an hour, after you lift weights for an hour, you have these things, they're called GLUT4 receptors in your muscles, and they are insulin independent blood glucose cells. So what that means is it's basically like floodgates that just open up in your muscles where blood sugar just dumps out of your blood and goes into your muscle cells. So if you are pre-diabetic or diabetic, you are what they call insulin resistant. Well, strength training literally negates your need for insulin. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it literally is reversing the pre-diabetes diabetes pathway. But here's the catch. You have to lift a certain amount of weight. You have to lift over a certain threshold to get those GLUT4 receptors. So in other words, if you went for a jog, or if you took 10-pound dumbbells and lifted them 300 times, you probably aren't going to get those GLUT4 receptors activated. But if you lift 100 pounds at once, those floodgates open. So again, this is why we need to be lifting heavy. Okay. So when you first start working out, I want you to look at this red curve and this blue curve. When you first start working out, the primary adaptation your body makes is via your nervous system. So if you haven't been working out for 6 months and you start working out, in 3 weeks, you're going to feel a lot stronger, right?
Mhm.
You're not necessarily getting stronger because you're building muscle. You're getting stronger because your nervous system is adapting. So do the implications of that make sense? I'll make it explicit, but what is the implication of that? Or what does that seem to be?
I wasn't aware of that. How does that happen? How does your neural adaptation actually make you stronger?
Well, so it's actually really awesome. Your nervous system always underestimates your muscles to keep you from getting injured.
Huh.
So in other words, your body is really good at keeping your nerves. Your nerves inhibit your muscles.
Yes.
So your
Yeah.
muscles don't try to lift something heavier than you actually can.
Yeah, I think that's called recruitment or something like that, where you start to bring more muscle fiber online. Your nerves start to. I didn't realize that was what was happening with recruitment, though. That was neural. That's interesting.
Right. So most of your ability is actually determined by your nerve. Your muscles, everybody on this call's muscles are probably way stronger than you think they are. But you actually have to bring up your nervous system before your muscles are actually going to use their full potential. And so it keeps you from getting injured. Also, the nervous system adapts faster than muscles. So like in short-term need, you can really kick your nervous system on. But the point is, someone will start exercising and they say, hey, I'm getting a lot stronger, so I'm building muscle. But actually, you're probably just building your nervous system as an adaptation. You actually probably aren't building muscle. So, or you're building very little muscle. And so the point is, we get to this point of hypertrophy once our nervous system is really fully adapted and primed. So once you're lifting, then you sort of allow your muscles to really actually stress themselves to their limit. That makes sense.
How long does that take? I mean, for that to come about?
Yeah, it's different in beginners. Your nervous system will kick on probably faster if you're a beginner. And so you will make huge gains as a beginner very quickly, but you're not really making any strength gains.
Really? And
my friend, anytime he gets stronger, you can guess that his muscles are getting bigger because his nervous system is already fully pretty much adapted.
yeah.
So this is why when you get back from vacation, you try to lift weights and you say, oh my gosh, I can't hit the same reps or the same weight that I used to.
Yes.
I'm starting back from square one. Actually, you haven't. Your nervous system just needs to get ramped back up. And guess what? It'll get ramped up really quickly. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
It's super cool. It's really a genius system. Here's a really big encouragement that I think everybody will like. This is a little bit of a side note, but I think this is important. Cardio is very different. Your cardio literally is about how fit your heart and your lungs are. if you're in the best cardio shape of your life, you can lose that in 8 weeks. You can lose 80% of that in about 8 weeks if you just stop training cardio. Your muscular strength, you will pretty much maintain for a year unless you like do dieting or like you do nothing. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Muscle is hard to build, but strength is actually really easy to maintain. Your strength might decrease, but your actual muscle mass has actually stayed the same.
Huh. Wow.
So here's a couple of the takeaways. When you lift, okay, say you're gonna dumbbell overhead and you do 25 pounds and you go up to 10 and you're like, I think I could do a couple more, but whatever. 25 pounds, I did 10 reps. The thing that's shutting you off at the end of those 10 reps is probably your nervous system, not your muscles. It's probably a little bit of both, but it's probably primarily your nervous system. So one of the things that you can do is if you just go heavier, even for just a couple of reps. So you're doing 25 pounds, you're doing overhead. Yeah, hey, I'm going to try 30. I'm going to try 30 pounds overhead. And maybe you only do 2 or 3 reps. The next time you grab that 25 pounder, I guarantee you'll be able to do 15 reps overhead. You can literally instantaneously get stronger just by priming your nervous system. Does that make sense, Cindy Lou?
Yes, it does.
So whatever you've gotten used to at the gym, whatever you've adapted to, what I want to do is push you guys to jump up a little bit and see how your nervous system adapts. And what we're doing is we're pushing the threshold of where your nervous system is tapping out and where your muscles are taking over. And the goal here is to actually build muscle.
So you would almost suggest then, like after you've done a heavy workout, says, "Gosh, that really kind of I feel painful. I'm exhausted." You would say, "Go back and hey, add another 5 pounds. Try to move that thing."
Yep. And when like for me, so I had not squatted in a while. I took some time off of squatting, and I'd had a little bit of knee pain that I was kind of working through. And the first time I went back to squatting, I was like, man, this feels so dang heavy. And I used to squat way more than this. And so really, I just threw as much freaking weight as I could get on the bar and like squatted it just to get my body back where it was, and I got right back. So if I had just said, this feels really heavy and just stayed where I was, I knew I could squat heavier. So I just threw it on, gritted through it, and like within a week, I was right back where I was.
Huh.
So much of your upper bound is nervous system and mental. And usually your muscles can do a lot more than you think. So here's one of the takeaways I was saying earlier is push-ups are making you fitter, but they're really probably not making you stronger. You know, when you first start doing push-ups, you're like, hey, last week I could do 20, this week I could do 40. That doesn't mean you've doubled your muscle mass. That means your nervous system has gotten more adapted. So it's the same thing with light dumbbells or things like air squats or 100-pound deadlift. Like you might be getting more fitter. I think you should do those things, but they're not really going to be building your muscles. So push-ups might be making, I said it this way, push-ups might be making you stronger, but they're not making, but they're not building your muscles. So what really builds your muscles is actually going to that upper limit. So how do we actually get to that upper limit? Here's what I'd like you to do. Don't just try to jump into it. You know, I've got one client who they have a workout partner who's working out with them, and that person's really struggling to keep up. And it's because they're not doing the foundations. Almost all my clients are doing the foundations. Well, all my clients are doing the foundations. So first step, follow a structured program at least for a month. So just get in, start doing the movements. I don't really care. I've set up my clients with programs before, and they tell me, well, how much weight should I be doing? And when you first start a program, you'll probably have heard me say, look, I don't care. I don't care what you're doing. Just get in and start doing it. Isn't that what I told you, Cindy Lou, right?
Yes, it is.
All right. I couldn't remember exactly, but that's pretty much what I tell everyone. Now, here's the thing. You're at the point where I'm going to have you push it now, okay? So because you've been consistent with it for about 4 weeks. So now we're gonna go to the next phase. So the first one is follow a structured program, and I want you to work the same movements with a high degree of compliance. So that means like if we're asking you to work out 3 times a week, I want you to pretty much hit 3 times a week for a month. If we're asking you to do 4 times a week, I want you to nail doing 4 times a week. What that does is that gives you a baseline for what your body can do. Okay. You can't you can't go to the mountaintop if you don't have a base camp, I guess. So once you establish a baseline, then what I want you to do, this is the simplest way you can do it, is jump your weights by 10% on the final set of every exercise you do and see where your rep range lands. My next slide will show you how to do that. So jump your weights up by 10% on one set. And then if your body recovers well, and if you notice the next day, like maybe you're a little bit more sore, maybe you're a little bit more tired, but it's not the end of the world. You don't have any pain, you didn't tweak anything, then the whole next workout, let's just go ahead and move it to that 10% higher weight. So let me show what that looks like. So if you're not lifting heavy enough, you want to move closer to your physiological threshold, you want to actually build muscle. Here's what we do. This is a program I've got a lot of you guys on. It's this is upper, so you do push and a pull, and then you do a push and a pull, and then you do bicep curls, lateral raises, and push-ups. So I have most people start at a 3x12. So say you go and you take a stock of where your exercises are. You do 100 pounds on the bench press, 50 pounds on the row, 30-pound overhead press, 100-pound lateral pull down, 20 bicep curl, 15 lateral raise. The next week, I want you to increase by about 10% and round up. So this 30-pound, technically 10% is 3 pounds. You don't have a 3-pound dumbbell. So I want you to go up to 35. Lat pull downs 110 so everything has gone up 10%. You just do that on your final set, and then maybe you record here, hey, I wasn't able to do 12, but I was able to do 8 reps. Y'all see that?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, so do that on one set, and then take stock of where you are. And then if you do okay, the whole next workout, go ahead and bump it up to this new 10% increase. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So Cindy Lou, I'd love for you this week to just take this baseline, and then the next week we'll jump it up on one set. And then if you do well with that, we'll do it.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep. So here's the question everybody has to ask. They say, well, safety, am I going to get hurt? In general, and by the way, injury is a huge concern of mine. Concern in the sense that I'm always wanting to watch out for it, because if you get injured, you're not going to be able to adhere. The majority of injuries are going to come from excessive reps. So like doing a huge, just a super high volume of training that's really disproportionate for what you need, which is not training. That's just doing a bunch of reps. Rapid or extremely technical movements, like you ever heard kipping pull-ups? Andy, if you know a kipping pull-up.
No, I don't.
Katie does. So a kipping pull-up it's a CrossFit move where to get more pull-ups and you throw your body like this on the bar.
Yeah.
You literally you look like a butterfly from the side, you're going like this. And that's a way to just really destroy your shoulders if you're not careful.
That's what that looked like to me, a shoulder destroyer.
Yeah, and it is for young people, but it definitely is the older you get. So anyway, the injuries primarily are coming from if you're doing a full sprint or something like kipping pull-ups or a huge amount of impact. So like running, impact is not bad, but a massive amount of impact is going to blow out your knees, or a huge amount of weight without building a foundation. So actually more people are probably more likely to get injured just by doing strength training without eating. So it's very common that someone will go for their first weightlifting workout and they won't eat any protein that day. They don't eat enough food to recover from it. And then they're sore for 5 days. Have you ever experienced that before?
I have, until you showed me what I was doing wrong.
Yeah. And what you were doing wrong wasn't really in the gym. That's the problem of you working out too hard. That's the problem of you under recovering from your movement.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean you worked out wrong. That means you screwed up your nutrition. So your nutrition is good and you have a foundation, you can pretty much safely push that weight. Now, again, I'm saying start with 10% on one set and then evaluate. But you usually, a lot of you could probably go higher than that, but just be safe and reasonable. So does that kind of make sense there? Like what your main dangers are from injury and how strength training actually can protect yourself?
Yes, it does.
If you have that foundation, you're usually gonna be okay.
Yes.
So let's review. And here's the action item for you this week is actually, if you haven't created your baseline, then go ahead and create your baseline. You could do this in 1 week, but basically create your baseline on your program and then jump on jump 10% on one set, evaluate how you feel. Jump 10% on if as long as you're okay, jump 10% on everything on your next workout, evaluate how you feel. As long as you're okay, you don't have any tweaked back or anything, and continue a whole week at the new 10% increase or more if you recover well. So you could do well, sorry, I said just 10% more here. So as long as you progress well on each phase, then I want you to jump up. And you probably should be jumping. Is that pretty clear?
Yeah, I'm with you. Good. I like it.
And this is what we said, Andy, at some point, you're going to top out on this with a home gym, but it's okay if you top out for like a month or whatever, and just you maintain there, but I wouldn't last, 2-3 months without making some kind of adjustment, even if it's going to meet with a trainer one time a week and lifting pretty heavy on that, where you can just ease your way into it. You're putting your toe in the water.
Well, I'm going to have to get some more weights. I can tell right now. I'm going to have to get another bar. For example, I don't even have a bench press thing. I don't even have a bench. So, and I've been doing push-ups for that. I just need to go ahead and get that. So here, Merry Christmas, Ron. Go get that for me.
One thing you could do, Andy, I've been doing dumbbell presses. I've had some shoulder issues on my right shoulder.
Yeah.
One thing I'm doing is dumbbell bench press, and I do the eccentric phase. So I go down slowly and then press up. And so I'm not increasing the weight, but I'm increasing the volume and I'm increasing the time under tension of my muscle.
Are you doing that? Are you doing both hands at the same time?
Yep, doing both, just like a bench press, but I'm pressing and then I go slower. So you could do the same thing with your squat. You could do a 3-second negative on your squat where you're increasing the load of that weight, even though you're not increasing the weight of the load.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I could never get the thing up. It's like it was 80 pounds. So my right hand, I could get it up, and the left hand, somebody come help me get this up here.
Yeah, yeah. On the dumbbell bench press.
Yes.
Then go down to a weight you can get both in place and do the 3-second negative.
And that's just slow descent.
Slow descent. There's more tearing of your muscle fibers on the eccentric phase. Eccentric is when gravity is pushing with you. So that's the down phase on the squat or the down phase on a press. And so you can actually get more, like if you can't do a pull-up, one way that you can work up to it is by jumping up over the bar and then letting yourself down.
Yes. Isn't that interesting?
Jumping up. Yep. And you'll build muscle mass there that will then transfer a little bit on the pull.
That's good.
And that is something that I would definitely have you do at your home gym. And that's also something that if you're worried about safety, you could do the same weight and just focus on the eccentric phase and see how you recover. But,
yeah. Okay. Well,
yeah. That being said, there's a CrossFit workout. It's a famous workout. It's called at some point in the workout, you do 100 pull-ups. And most people can't do 50 pull-ups because after you've done 50, you can't keep pulling. Well, it's very common that a coach will tell somebody just jump up over the bar and let yourself down for every step you can't do. But the problem with that is eccentric movements is actually tears your muscle fibers more than the full movement. And so you have a bunch of people doing 50 negative pull-ups and they'll end up with rhabdo and they will destroy their muscles.
Yeah. Well, we got a friend hospitalized with that. We know 2 friends hospitalized with that. Renal failure, rhabdomyolysis after doing the CrossFit workout. And so you're saying, but you're saying if I was doing,
was it the pull-up workout?
I don't know what they were doing, to be honest. I don't know. It was at CrossFit, so I don't know.
Andy, would you do me a favor? Could you text me? Because every person this is not an exception. Every person I have heard of that has gotten rhabdo did it at that workout.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, one of them has died since of cancer, and the other one was his wife. So I can't really ask about it.
Yeah. Well,
But what you're saying is that if I was to press the dumbbell, kind of the floor press, I guess, I can let that come down very slowly, but you're saying it's more damaging, yet you're saying I can gain more strength that way as well. So
it's more damaging in the sense that it's a way to compensate. It's a way to utilize a lighter weight
Yes.
to get a progression. So in other words, you can only get one weight in the right position there.
Yeah.
Go a little bit lighter and then do this. So you could do 60 pounds that's theoretically as taxing on your body as 80.
I see. Okay. I follow.
So here's what, this is the last slide I have, but this is why I'm encouraging you to lift heavier during this, is because progressive overload is king. And if you're not overloading, you're plateauing. So the point of progressive overload is that you can't progressively overload forever. You have to have seasons where you go back down. But most of my clients could progressively overload for a very long time, pretty much for the rest of their life. So we do want to overload, and most people get into a rhythm where they're using the same weights and they just stay there. And I want to aggressively encourage you. You've been using the same weight on all your movements for 3-4 months. It's time to go up.
Yeah. So again, with this overloading, again, so that means that my typical would be like 10 reps maybe or something. Then says, okay, I'm going to take that up until I can't do 4 reps, or what point again? I know you've discussed this before,
Yeah.
but if you got 4 reps or 6 reps out of it.
Yeah. So here, this is a good example. This sort of depends on your skill level. And this goes back to this slide, the safety slide. I wouldn't have many of my clients go for a 1 rep max, because I don't want you pushing that close to the nervous system muscle limit. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I probably can get pretty close to my 1 rep max, but the only people that can truly hit a 1 rep max are like power lifters in competition.
Yeah. Okay.
They can push it that far. For my population, I would have you doing a 4 or 5 rep max most. Wouldn't have you doing a 1 to 2 rep max. So I don't want you going to a 1 to 2 rep max, but if you're working in the 4 to 5 range, 4 to 6 range, you're going to be really working straight.
Yeah. Of course, sometimes you don't never know what that max is until you try it.
Exactly.
So that was only 1 or 2 on that one because I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll accidentally find a 2 rep max, and that's okay, but then maybe you take a little bit off and you work in the 4 to. Once you work more in the 4 to 6 rep max, you'll figure out that you can safely. You work that down. So once you can do a 4 to 6 rep max, then I could say, okay, let's try a 3 to 2 rep max.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's good. Good stuff.
Yeah, love it. So here's the rule. If you're not overloading, you're plateauing. And the other thing is, if your environment is not conducive to measurable progress, to measurable progressive overload, you should consider changing your environment. So this would include if you're only at a home gym, if you're exclusively working out in group classes, or if you only work out 3 times a week. We want to figure out a way where we can overload that. Can we work out 4 times a week? Can you add some individual programming to the end of your group class? Can you work out mostly in your home gym, but have one time in the gym where you go with some heavier weights? So as long as you're progressively overloading, as long as you're adding weight, as long as you're lifting heavy, you will make a profound change to the way your body functions, feels, looks, and it's going to make a really big difference on your quality of life. So that's all I got. Any questions or any follow-up on that?
No, that's good stuff. It's very helpful. And you're going to send me that thing that you showed me before the meeting, I think.
Yes, I'll send that to you. I'll send you a quick link for this.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Very grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. Great work, Eddie. Glad you're back from your trip.
Okay, I'll be talking to you later.
Okay, love it. Hey, I saw. Thanks for submitting. Don't worry too much about it.